So you're just gonna keep flying straight up. Stay still. Fucking die. Come on. Yes. No. No. You never take me alive, Chopper. Yeah, see. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Q Nostalgia here, and welcome to my review for Ghost Recon Wildlands. I'm sure a few of you remember the review I did for the beta, and you're probably wondering what my opinion is on it. Now, it has changed. Things are definitely a lot better than they were in the beta, and I'm also glad that I didn't review this as soon as it came out. I didn't jump right on it. I gave it some time because I knew there were going to be some patches and some fixes. If I would have reviewed this game, guys, on the day that it came out, performance would have got an F. It's really that simple. It would have got a flaming F. But it's been a while since I've made a video, guys, and I'm really excited to get into this one. So without further ado, let's talk about the graphics first. This just might be the title to break Ubisoft's nasty habit of downgrading their graphics, downscaling everything, and making it look way worse than it did when they first showed off their game. Now, to be fair, there was a lot of people complaining about The Division. I didn't think that it looked that downscaled. Obviously, you could tell there was a difference, but with this one, it seems like it looks better than what they were showing in the trailers. I don't know if this was a conscious decision or they just made an extra pass on it and decided to tweak the graphics before the game came out. I have no idea what happened. Maybe they were thinking, hey, let's surprise people and actually make it look better than what they were expecting. I don't know. But either way, I think the game looks pretty damn good. It's certainly no slouch, and the different environments, I think, really showcase everything really well. Most of you guys know that I don't have to have hyper-realistic graphics. As long as the lighting is nice, there's a really good color palette there, there's a lot of variation. That's what I'm looking for. Stylized art and stuff like that, it's completely okay with me. Not that I'm saying this game is cartoonish looking or anything, but it's not hyper-realistic, and I'm okay with that because the color palette is great. It's something that just keeps you interested. The lighting is really nice. The water looks really, really good. But I think that the foliage probably steals the show. The weather obviously aids in that because you can see the foliage reacting to the weather if it's wet outside and stuff. And if you have a rig that can handle turning the foliage all the way up, I definitely recommend it. The reason why it's so impressive in this game is because of how big this game is. And when you're flying over these huge forested areas in these swamps and the water, everything just comes together in a really cohesive way, and it just works and it looks really nice. In terms of character models, it feels like it's hit and miss. Once again, it's a game that really nails the fabrics. When you look at the fabrics and stuff on the clothing, you just can't help but go, oh shit, you can see all the stitching and you can see all the patterns. But then when you look at their face and their hair, it's just kind of, ugh. It doesn't look that good. I feel that the vehicles are a little lackluster as well. They just don't look as good as the environment around them. So it just kind of makes them stand out a little bit. It could just be me. Maybe it's something that bothers me, but they seem a little out of place, just like the character models seem out of place in terms of the faces and the hair. It's just something that I think a lot of games struggle with. They seem to get the environment and everything really nice, but then there's just things that seem like they don't really fit in there. And that brings us to the sound. The sound in this game, it's really hit and miss. For me, the radio is just kind of annoying. It's funny when the DJ comes on and he talks about stuff that's going on. He talks about the cartel and all of that shit. But the music, it's just, you know, when you're going to compare this to GTA, and people are going to make that comparison. It's just the way it is. Let's be honest about it. It's just, it doesn't compare. The radio is terrible. It's just a bunch of generic Mexican kind of music that nobody listens to it. You turn it off immediately. The dialogue between the characters is annoying. It's repetitive. They say the same jokes over and over again. You're hearing a lot of the same dialogue from the villagers. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know a lick of Spanish, but I think if I keep playing this game, I might become pretty fluent in at least 5 or 6 words because they just keep repeating the shit over and over again. There's this one guy that walks around, and I know it's not the same guy, but it always feels like it's the same guy because he's got the same voice, and he's just kind of humming. It reminds you of Cheech from Cheech and Chong.
Mexican Americans don't like to get up early in the morning, but they have to, so they do it real slow.
And that brings me to a side point that the game doesn't really take itself too serious. And that's a good thing, but at the same time it feels like it's kind of a bad thing. Because you go in there with this mindset that, oh, I'm fighting the cartel. These are evil people. They chop off people's heads and they do terrible shit. And then there's a joke that takes place between the villains. And you're just kind of like, wait, huh? Are you supposed to be badass cartel members? What's with the jackassery? That's not to say that I haven't laughed several times. I definitely do. But it seems like it does the game a bit of a disservice because it's not taking a serious situation very serious at all. And I think it's just one more thing that kind of pushes this game away from traditional Tom Clancy Ghost Recon status and closer to something like Grand Theft Auto. There's a reason why people are making those connections, because they've definitely taken a huge step in that direction. And naturally that brings us to gameplay. This is not a traditional Ghost Recon title. This is not a traditional Tom Clancy title at all. However, for all of the connections that people are making towards Grand Theft Auto, I don't feel like there's that many of them there outside of the vehicles. And the fact that it has a radio that is infinitely more insignificant. When you're out and on the ground and fighting, it honestly feels more like Metal Gear Solid 5 than anything else, in my opinion. It feels closer to that formula. It feels like a better Metal Gear Solid 5. And I've seen other people make that connection. It feels like, holy shit, if this is what Metal Gear Solid 5 would have been, it would have been a better game. Because it seems like there's more to do. There's more variety, and it doesn't feel like you're repeating the same shit over and over again. Yes, you're doing the same, I don't know, it's hard to say that because yeah, you're doing the same stuff, but you're not doing it in the same exact area over and over. Whereas in Metal Gear Solid, it seemed like you went into the same bases, and it just really irritated me. So it seems like it was building off of what Metal Gear did. I don't know if that was a conscious decision or if it's just the way that it turned out. It feels like if you took Metal Gear Solid 5, you took some elements of Just Cause and Far Cry, threw them into a blender, and added a dash of SOCOM. I shit you not. Some of my SOCOM subscribers are going, dude, watch your fucking mouth right now. But there is some of that feeling in terms of Combined Assault. The co-op, I'm getting that feeling, guys, and that's, I think, one of the saving graces of this game, is that when I'm sneaking into a base with a friend and we're taking guys out and we're coordinating and we're going in for the objective, it does have that Combined Assault feeling. It does make me feel that SOCOM moment. Now, when I think of SOCOM, I can't help but think of competitive multiplayer, and that's something where the game is seriously lacking. They said that they do plan on releasing a multiplayer mode of 4 versus 4, which does have me excited because when you think 4v4, you think small maps. There's no way they're going to have huge maps. I would prefer an 8 versus 8 situation, classic SOCOM style, but I'll take a 4v4. While I do like games like Battlefield where you've got all these huge environments and there's a bunch of people all over the place, sometimes you just want to play something boots on the ground, small maps, just a handful of people so you're not getting shot from all directions. I tend to gravitate towards that multiplayer more than I do on anything with a massive scale. But nevertheless, sadly, it remains to be seen how that's going to function when it comes out. You guys can rest assured I will be covering that here on the channel when they bring it out. But I digress. I'm sorry, guys. It's hard for me to talk about Ghost Recon without talking about competitive multiplayer. It just blows my mind that this wasn't available from day one. But in terms of the bulk of the gameplay, what you're really doing here is you're trying to destabilize all these smaller regions so that you can finally get to the cartel main boss, the kingpin behind everything. While you're doing this, you're going to different regions, and they're pretty varied in the way that they look, so it doesn't really get too exhausting on the eyes. You don't feel too worn out. So you will be doing a lot of the same stuff. You'll go into a region, you'll shake down some of the guys to find out information on where to go next. You'll figure out where to go to get weapon parts. You'll figure out where to go to get stuff to help you level up. You'll have skill points that you can gather. You'll also have resources that you need to apply those skill points, which is very Metal Gear Solid 5. It functions a lot like The Division in terms of being a completionist. You want to go around and you want to gather all of the different files. You want to gather all of the different things. If you're somebody who gets irritated with having to do stuff like that, if you want to just do the main mission and you don't want to go around and gather weapon parts or different weapons, you don't want to have to gather skill points, this isn't going to be a game for you. You're just not going to like it. You're going to feel like, oh, no, I thought I was done here. Now I have to go and gather that. And to be honest, if you play the game for an extended period of time, that's what starts to happen to you. You start to think, okay, I just want to get through the story and see what happens next. Forget about gathering all this shit on the side. I don't care. And I kind of feel like the game gets in its own way because it's forced on you to gather those things. It's not really something that's optional. I guess you could go through the game without gathering all of it. You'd still be strong enough to take on the harder areas. But it feels to me like you really need to gather those things if you want to get the complete experience. It's not like The Division where they had audio logs where it didn't really matter if you gathered them. Who cares if you get some stupid pink jacket for gathering all the logs? But it was there if you wanted to be a completionist. And this, it feels more like if you don't do it, you're really going to miss out because you're not going to get that upgrade for a weapon. You're not going to find that one weapon that you didn't get, or you're not going to level up all of your skills. Now, in terms of the AI, I feel like the enemy AI is pretty good. I don't have any complaints about that. But my squad is absolutely useless. It befuddles me. Is that a word? Go look it up. Somebody Google that shit real quick. It absolutely blows my mind that a game that came out like 14 years ago, SOCOM, had better squad management than this game does today in 2017. It's current year. What the fuck? What is this? Why can't I tell them to go here? Why can't I tell them do this? Breach the door, throw a flashbang. I mean, there's so many different things that you could do in the older Ghost Recon games and in the older SOCOM games that just, it should be here. There's no reason for it. There's no excuse for it. Why did they omit that stuff? I have no idea. But if you're playing by yourself, you're basically Rambo. That's how it is. Yes, you can call for reinforcements from the rebels. You can drop mortars. You can drop vehicles and stuff like that, distractions. But for the most part, if you're not playing with your buddies online, it's just you. You're by yourself. The most effectiveness you're going to get out of your squad is by flying in with a helicopter and having them attack everything, or riding in an APC. Right? If you do that, they'll fuck everything up. They will leave a trail of destruction all over the place. Just put them in a vehicle, give them a gun, and have them shoot, and they'll get the job done. If you tell them to attack, wherever they happen to be, they seem to be pretty good at it. And yeah, when you queue up for shots, you can queue different shots. Once you level that up, the game does definitely start to get easier, because you can mark up to 3, I think 4 targets is the max that you can mark, and you can take them all down in rapid succession. So that does help that you can do that, but there needs to be way more squad control here. I don't know, maybe I'm getting old, but I thought it was the coolest thing when I brought SOCOM home and I was able to yell into my headset and tell my teammates what to do, and the AI would actually listen. Alright, so maybe nostalgia has tainted those memories a little bit, but it was still nice to be able to do those things. Yeah, maybe the neighbors thought I was out of my mind when I was screaming in my headset at 2 in the morning, but it was still pretty cool when it worked most of the time. I just can't help but feel like gaming has gone backwards in many different ways. Yeah, now we've got all these different newfangled graphics and things look way more shiny and they're prettier, and you can have these bigger worlds with better rendering and everything, but what good is that when some of the things that were really awesome in the past have just been completely shelved and pushed aside for more casual stuff? And that's one of the things about Ghost Recon Wildlands that really irks me. It seems like they just got rid of things that they shouldn't have got rid of. There was no reason to do that. And the only reason why I can think that they would do that is because they just want to casualize it more, bring it to a broader audience. And we've all seen what that has done to gaming over time. It leads to some really boring shit to where people are actually looking at early access games to get the variety that they crave, to get that excitement that used to be in the gaming industry and is just sorely lacking today. Now, in terms of controls, I feel like the game does a good job in this department. One thing that just kind of throws me off is every time I go from third person into first person, I just can't seem to get used to that shit. Every time I do it, it jars me just enough to where I have to like kind of course correct my eyes and go, oh shit, there he is. For some reason I thought he was here, and the second I zoom in, oh, he's over here now. I just can't get over that. I don't know what it is with me in this game. It's just a jarring flip of the switch when you go from third into first person. It doesn't feel as bad as it did when they were first showing the game off. It feels like they put more animation in the way that it snaps to that view, but it very much disconnects me from the experience just long enough to where I know once I get into multiplayer, it's going to get me killed. In terms of vehicle controls, they seem to be much improved from the closed and open beta phase. That was a major complaint for a lot of people. That was a major complaint for me, but it seems like they're controlling a lot better. The ground vehicles are still a little touchy, but the aerial vehicles, they control perfect. And that brings me to the last point of this video, the optimization. This is something that they have improved greatly from the time of the beta experience. The game is running at around 45 to 50 FPS for me. I am running a GTX 960 with a 4 GHz AMD 8-core processor and 32 GB of RAM. I'm running the game on high settings, just one notch below the highest setting, as you can see on your screen, and it does look pretty damn nice. Now, one of the things that irritated me about the game when it first launched is that it had a problem it didn't have even during beta. The game would hang and it would just drag for about a second or two every time that it had to save, and it would do this when you opened up the map. It seemed like the map had to connect to a server that it wasn't quick enough to respond. It would take like 2 or 3 seconds to load the map. It's the weirdest shit I've ever seen in a game. It made me think that I was connecting to a dial-up server just to load their map. Every time you tagged something, if you went to tag an item that you needed, say fuel or something, when the menu popped up to tell you how much of that resource you gathered, just before it went away, it would hitch and it would slow you down just for a couple of seconds, not even, just about a second. And it did this every single time you tag stuff. Now the problem with that is that you're tagging stuff in Ghost Recon Wildlands non-stop. You're opening your map non-stop. The game saves, guys, non-stop. So this was something that was just a constant, it looked like the game was having a stroke. So when I sat down to review it, I was going to give it an absolutely horrible review. I gave it some time for them to patch it. They did patch it. I'm still pissed off that it launched like that. This is something that was not in the beta. I don't expect it to be in the release of your game when you launch it, but these things do happen. It's just kind of the way it is. They patched it. It's not that way anymore. But man, it was brutal, to the point where I played the game for a while and then I just shelved it for like 2 weeks and didn't even touch it until they fixed that shit. Ghost Recon Wildlands is a fun game, but it's a safe game. It's a safe game that plays to that casual audience. It doesn't have the balls to do what Ghost Recon games were doing in the past, trying to bring in people that like that hardcore style. They've moved away from that, so it's alienated a large part of me. There's a large part of me that just feels like, why? Why did you have to do this? But then there's another side of me who says, this is fun. Do I feel like I got my money out of Ghost Recon Wildlands? I would rather have paid $40 for it, to be honest with you guys, and I still think that most people would be better off waiting a little bit, because where's the multiplayer? Once that comes, then yeah, I could say maybe $60 it would be worth getting. There's a decent amount of content here. You're going to be playing this game for a while, but how long are you going to be able to do that on your own? Not very long, in my opinion, before you get burnt out. So if you don't have friends, that's another thing that kind of detracts from it. In terms of a co-op game, I think you can do a lot worse than Ghost Recon Wildlands. In terms of co-op, I think it's a lot of fun. But I can't help but think that it could have been so much better, and I can't help but feel like it really sold out to a different demographic. So there you have it, folks. That is my review of Ghost Recon Wildlands. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I will be covering the game going forward here throughout the years. All of the DLC and all of the patches that they bring of significance, you can be sure I will be covering it. And hey, if you got a few minutes, here's some other videos that you guys might find interesting. I thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video.